Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to another Citrix ADM monthly webinar. This is for the March 2022. Let's talk about who is online. It's only me today, so I will be covering all the management and monitoring related sessions to run what all are the improvements, and along with last section, as always, we reserve for the primer. So, what is the agenda? First, we'll talk about the overview of ADM service for all those people who are joining fresh onto this ADM webinar and who are maybe on the ADM on-prem or yet not on ADM and planning to leverage that for their centralized ADC management. So this section will help them to understand how you can quickly onboard and what are the various flavors of licenses which are available for them to leverage. Then the next section, we will talk about since the last webinar, what all the new enhancements or the improvements which has come to the ADM service. As we know, right, ADM service gets a bi-weekly pushes around all the new feature, whether it is a customer request or is a feature development from the Citrix end as well. Then I will be taking few of those improvements based upon the time allocated to me for today's session, and we'll talk about those. So few of them which I have selected for today are: first is the improvements which has been done around the ADM agent diagnostics, because agent is one of the critical pieces sitting in the on-prem environment connecting to the service. So improvements around this has been done based on the feedback, of course, received from customers and as well as the test done by us. Then we will talk about few of the improvements which has been done into the ADM SSL certificate management around the certificate store. And then we'll talk about one of the major developments or the feature enhancements which has come over the platform is this. Now we have the support for Azure AD Group to allocate and assign access to the ADM service via groups of the Azure AD. And last, there is a small enhancement or improvement which has come into the config job that I will take through, followed by a detailed basic walkthrough over the config job feature itself. So with that, let's first quickly talk about what are the quick ways to start leveraging the ADM service. First, you need to have a Citrix Cloud account. Once you have a Citrix Cloud account, you can go to the ADM service tile, and all you have to do is to select the built-in agent, which means it's a very quick 3 steps low touch onboarding where you don't need to decide upon whether you have to have an inbuilt dedicated agent on your site. Rather, you can leverage the inbuilt agent of the ADC itself to discover it. How you can do that? Just select that option, built-in agent, then go to the service URL and activation code which you need to copy and put it over to the ADC for getting it discovered. As soon as it is discovered, you can start leveraging all the basic functionalities with the ADM service. If you are not aware or already not using ADM on-prem, you will definitely see a lot of good features. And if you are already on on-prem, then you will definitely see a lot of differentiators over the ADM service. So what are the few of the very quick and simple examples or advantages which keeps the ADM service apart? First, it's very agile, which means unlike your on-prem deployments where you have to take care of your HA setups or a DR hassles, and you have to plan out the upgrades and keep the system running without any point of failures. So those all hassles of operating and managing infrastructure in your data center gets negated because it's being a cloud service, which means it's very agile, very quick time to recover up, and absolutely zero times and zero downtimes, and all the latest upgrades and updates gets pushed without you have to be worrying about any downtime here. The next one is very faster time to value, which means, as I was seeing, showing you in the last slide, how you quickly get started with discovering your ADCs onto the ADM service with a very low touch onboarding where you just leverage the inbuilt and get started with basic management and monitoring capability of the ADM service. Next, it has very state-of-art advanced machine learning, which is very exclusive to ADM service. Reason being, all the statistics which are being pulled across ADM service actually keeps all the tab on all the data traffic, and it analyzes all the patterns being, how the application is performing in terms of be it bandwidth, be it response and request times, and based on that it will show you all the anomalous behavior around the application if it deviates from its standard behavior. Next, it has a very low operational cost, which means it requires very less time and money and resources. So all the operational expenses reduce drastically while when we have an on-prem to manage with a dedicated resource to keep the ADM up and running. Next, it supports pretty much ADC environment, ADC, any ADC environment, be it a public cloud, be it an on-prem deployments, or it could be a hybrid mode where you have few devices sitting on-prem or a few sitting on the cloud. All those kind of deployments, ADC deployments are supported, and pretty much any flavor of ADCs are supported. And last but not the least, apart from supporting all the classic monolithic applications, now even the modern microservices based applications can also be managed and supported by the ADM service. So as I said, right, if you're gonna start your journey with the ADM service, the right first step to start towards it, as soon as you click onto the ADM tile on your Citrix Cloud account, you will be greeted with the application. If you are not an existing ADM on-prem user and you don't have a analytics license, you will be greeted with an Express tier. What you get with the Express tier? With the Express tier, it's a freemium version where you get pretty much all the things available which you can see on the on-prem, and of course, a lot of things which I actually talked in the last slide. So like, you have all have capability to discover all the virtual servers in the network function, network reporting. There is no limitation whatsoever onto the configuration job or how many style book configuration packs you can create. Of course, the limit which has been capped only is towards the analytics, where you are only limited to test and try up to 2 virtual server for the analytics, be it any analytics, whether it is around SSL, AppSec analysis, or Web Insight, or SDX, or Gateway, whatever analytics feature you're trying to leverage, it will be just limited to 2 virtual servers. And the data retention, of course, is limited to 500 MB or any 1 day or a 1 day of data, whichever comes first or which is lesser. Let's say you have already been using on-prem, or you're already happy with whatever functionalities are available with the Express. The thing you have to decide upon is around the analytics, and you want to, of course, do a lot of centralized analytics for all your application needs. In that case, the next progression for you, of course, is the advanced license. Within the advanced license, all you have to do, based upon the requirement of number of application you want to enable analytics for, be it HDX, Gateway, Web Insight, App Dashboard, ML based, app security analytics, as I was quoting. All these, you based upon number of virtual server you require, you can buy the SKU and enable up the license. In case you feel that, with as and just wanted to quote here, with every virtual server which is a SKU of, let's say, 10 virtual server you purchase, then you will get a 5 GB of storage, which means 500 MB comes with the virtual server per virtual server license. In case it doesn't suffice your need with the storage, of course, when you go for the management monitoring, you might open syslog, or you might open event notification monitoring, and a lot of other tasks which would require storage in the all practical data, customer environments. In that case, you can always go for the storage SKU, where you can buy a separate storage SKU license to bump up your data storage requirements. So with this, I will go to our new sections and all the sessions which I was initially talking about in our agenda. Neha, if you can help up with pasting the getting started guide, so that people can have a look into it. Okay, so as I said, right, before I go into the agenda, let's talk about what are all the new features which has been released since last time we connected together. One, as I said, right, I will be talking about the Azure AD support, where now you can, earlier, if you want to, let's say you have a team of people who are part of a certain application owners, and there are 3 4 members. If you want to extend the invitation, maybe a read only, or access given based on the authorization settings to only to that application, you have to do it and send the invitation one by one to all the 4 5 or 10 users who also belongs to that application owner. Now what you can do with this Azure group support, all you have to do is that if that those members are part of a common security group, all you have to do is, your Citrix cloud should be patched to the Azure, and you can just bring those group, and those user will be provided with the access. We'll talk about in more detail with a demo when we go to this section. Next one is the of course, the SSL dashboard, wherein we have given this certificate and key upload, or now you can upload all the keys from the ADC onto the ADM. This again I will be covering today. Next improvement which has came up around is based on few of the customer ask is having the network reports availability around a lot of AAA counters and ICA counters. Another thing which has come as an improvement is under the action policy. Now you can configure custom bot and WAF notifications with all the transaction details. Around the style books, we have two improvements which has came up. First is to use HTML formatting tag in style book description and headers. And next one is to deliver auto scale application that are outside of ADC instances, virtual network group or VPC. Uh, and Neha, can you please help us with posting this link so that whosoever is waiting for these features and want to read and understand more can go through that. Okay, so let's start with the first session, which is around the Citrix ADM Agent Diagnostics. So as I was saying, right, agent plays a very important role when ADM service is trying to connect and get all the whereabouts of the ADCs present in your data center. So of course, the monitoring and doing all the proper diagnostic of the agent becomes very important. So in that line, what we have done now. Now the all the diagnostic data from the external agents is being sent to ADM service, and based upon the diagnostic result it will show you the suggestions, or it will show you what is happening wrong within your agent. So and then it will tell you what need to be done. So what all things it will show. So if an external agent, when it says it is in needs review state, if one of the following conditions are met. First, if any of the following endpoints are not reachable, meaning you have your admcloud.com or these are list of things. If these URLs are not reachable from the ADM agent, you will get this notification or status on rather onto the ADM agent section, which I will show you in short time. And next, if there are no probe has been received for more than 2 hours from the ADM agent. So now we'll talk about how within the diagnostic sections or these diagnostics results are shown on the ADM UI. If you go into the ADM instance dashboard and within the ADM agent, you will see this section here now, additional section which says diagnostic status. Right now it shows okay because all the checks which I will show you highlights are being met. First is the endpoint reachability, health check probes, and the agent proxy. If the agent traffic is going via proxy, how's the status of that? So these all things will be shown into the UI itself if you visit there. In case if it is any of them is failing, you will see the previous status as I was talking about shows needs review. So how the typical notification will look like. So once this issue happens and any of the checks are failing, there will be a notification email which will be sent out, which shows and that notification will contain the tenant ID, agent IP address, agent host name, and diagnostic details. For example, in this case, my agent, there was an alert which was triggered that this particular URL is not reachable. So once it is resolved, it could be due to various reasons. It could be, reason could be agent itself having some network issue, or there were some changes which are done at the service and which were causing this reachability. Whatever the reason is, it will help us to quickly check over that. And once it is clear, you will see the diagnostic. You will also get a clear alert saying that no errors detected. So let's have a quick look onto the ADM itself where we can see this. So all you have to do is to navigate to infrastructures, instance, agent, and within that page you will, if you see here, it shows the diagnostic states, and you click on here on the OK button on the OK section, and you will see the what are the current status of all the category of checks currently being performed. Another thing I wanted to highlight in here is one improvement which has been done. If you go into the setting, now you have the option to so you have an option to give the agent reachable threshold time, which means by default earlier it was not configurable, and if an agent is down for more than 30 minutes only, it used to trigger a notification. Now this is user configurable, which means anytime between 5 to 60 minutes can be configured here, and you can send and based upon that, if a agent is down for more than or it's not reachable for more than 5 minutes, a notification will be triggered. Okay, so let's go back to the improvements. Now we'll talk about the improvements which are has been done around the certificate store. So this certificate store use case arises from the reason, why this had came it, again it has came from the customer feedback, wherein, if customer is trying to use a style book or a app API flow, they were not able to use the certificate while trying to push a configuration. Why? Because that certificate key might be already present onto the ADC, which ADM is not aware of, and that command used to fail because that certificate key pair is already present. So with this in mind, what we thought, if all the certificates which are present across all the ADCs in your infrastructure, if that can be brought out onto the ADM, because right now the way it was done today was, if you want to install a certificate under the certificate store of the ADM service, you have to go and add that certificate. Then it can be used, to push it across to the ADCs. As such, an ADM on the cert store, it was not aware of what all certificates are there. So that while creating the style books or using these API workflows, you can leverage that same certificate which is already existing onto that ADC. So with that in mind, this feature and this enhancement basically was done on around the certificate store. So the option is now you have been given is to discover the certificates from the selected ADC or from all the ADCs and import it onto the certificate store. So what you can do, you can view the certificates from the cert store for the selected ADCs. You can list them information based on the cert key pair. And so all the metadata, whether it is a cert key pair, name, types, date to expire, and all those other metadata information now is being shown at the single place within the table onto the certificate store. Also, if you want to see that which, based upon a particular instance, how many certificates are present, that also can be now viewed from the ADM service UI itself. We'll talk about this all, and I will show you with the right demo onto the ADM service UI itself. So what is the workflow? So now the new workflow, how it is, you have to select the import button onto the ADM UI. What it will do, it will run the sequentially, it will go to each and every ADC one by one, fetch all the certificate key pair from the ADCs. If let's say you are already using the certificate store and the certificate, couple of certificates are already present into the local store, certificate store of ADM, then it will skip installing it. It will just match that this is already present on this ADC, and if no, then it will migrate that certificate to the search store. Now all these migrated certificate, how to recognize, whether the certificates which are already there and this which you have discovered. So you have a different tag which shows whether it is manual or it is discovered. Those tag will differentiate it. And of course, when there are situations where the certificate with a key pair and the key is encrypted or password protected, in that situation, those password, unfortunately we cannot copy or discover it from the ADCs. So those will be marked again and into the ADM service UI, where it can differentiate and it will show you that this certificate is password protected or the key is password protected, and you may need to feed in the password when trying to use that certificate. And just to add in here, all the keys and password which you will be feeding in here, all the keys which are discovered basically will not be stored into the ADM database. Rather, it will be stored in the AWS credential wallet service. So with all this talking, let's quickly jump onto the demo, and I will show you. Before I go into the demo, I wanted to show this because this process of discovering all the certificate takes quite a bit of time. So I took a leverage of while discovering mine, I have taken the screenshot. I will show you where to click and discover that. But once you click on that, what it will do, it will, in the sequential order, it will go to one by one all the ADCs. If you see here, sorry. If you see here on the second slide, the one I have highlighted, as these certificates, as I was saying, right, are already present onto the ADM service certificate store, it will skip this and it will give you that, migration failed, because that certificate is already present. So let's go to the demo. So all you have to do is go into the SSL dashboard. Then from there, under this drop down, you have to select manage certificate store. There you have the import ADC certificate. So either you can do polling for all the certificate at once, or let's say by the last time when I did a discovery, I have added one new more instance for which, or ADC instance for which I want to discover. I can select that and do it. Or if you are not sure and you want to do it, you can do it for all the instances. So like I did, if you see here, these two certificates were already present in my certificate store of ADM service. So it is showing as manual because these were added by me by clicking on add button here. So that's why it shows as manual. And these were the one which were discovered when I clicked on the import ADC certificates. Now, as I said, right, some of them might be password protected. So the one which says password sync requires tag as true are the ones which requires the password. So once you come here and you click here and click on update, it will ask you to fill the password. Once you add in this, it will be saved in the AWS credential wallet service and can be used later on by other features like style books or ADM, sorry, API workflows, which you are gonna push the configuration using those. The one which says false means which means these are the certificate, the key files for those certificates is not password protected. So this is pretty much for the certificate store enhancements. So I will again quickly and will go to the next topic, which is one of the platform enhancements which has come around. That is the Azure AD Group support. So as I said, right, Azure AD Group support in ADM service is helpful, because it becomes a real blocker when you admins are trying to add the users one by one. So with the help of this ADM group support, it becomes very easy to assign the access to host of users who are part of the group in one go. So while leveraging this, you can import now all the active directories and associated groups to the ADM. Okay, so couple of things which we have to keep in mind is the connection of the Citrix cloud to the Azure AD is a prerequisite. So Neha, maybe you can help with the link which users can refer on how to integrate their Citrix cloud if not already with the Azure AD. Because once it is integrated, then only you will be able to leverage this to search the groups. So let's see the live demo of it and try to access with the user which is part of a group. Okay, first before I go into the demo, I wanted to really talk about I wanted to show you that the groups which I have created. Okay, so now I've given my credentials and will log in now. So as you see, this is the Azure Active Directory where I have created couple of users, which is demo test one and demo user one. Along with that, I have created two groups. One is demo group and demo test. So the demo user is part of demo group and demo test user is part of demo test group. So let's go back to our identity. So this is your page where you have to go onto the Citrix Cloud Service Identity and Access Management. Therein, excuse me. This is the place where you have to give in and connect with the Azure Active Directory, and it will be asking you to provide a unique name which need to be identified here. Like I have given here ADM PM, and all the steps are mentioned into that, basically to that link how to integrate it. So we'll just quickly go to the demonstration which I was talking about. Now here all I have to do is go and select, as you see now under the identity provider under administrator, now I have the Azure AD also showing up. I will select that. To ask me to sign in, please excuse me, I will again pause the screen. Okay, so if I want to start, yes. So basically what has happened, when I clicked on that, it asked me to what has happened? It will ask me to sign in every time whenever I want to add a group here. So I will again go back onto the identity and access management administrators. Azure AD. Okay, looks like some problem is there with my account. Let me open up a video where I have kept as a backup to record it, and I will show you through the video. So basically, if you see here, hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are, Avinash. Please go ahead.
Okay, okay, okay. Fine. So, as I was saying, unfortunately, apologies, guys. I'm not able to show it because some problem with my access itself. So, this is the video which I was talking about. So, I want to just go a little bit back. Here, if you see, right, as I was talking about, once you have integrated your ADM Citrix Cloud with the Azure AD, then you can come here under the administrator. All you have to do is click onto the Azure AD and select that. Then you will get this sign in off option. Then you have to select the credentials and do a sign in onto your Azure AD portal, admin accounts. It will take you through the MFA. And then you can come here and you can now search your group. That's for example, in this demonstration, when it was recorded, we have created a Web Insight security group with the name of Web Insight group because we wanted to provide access just for the Web Insight to those section of users. You click on the plus sign, then it will take you to the page where you can assign the custom access for this group so that it will be reflecting for all the users part of this group. So we go ahead, we get into the ADM delivery management and then select the one of the groups under which we have given the custom access. So this name we have selected here as Web Insight hyphen group, but it might not have to be same as your security group on the Azure. It could be anything within the ADM groups. Name doesn't have to match. When you click on add group, as soon as you do, in the last you will see this group has been already added, and if you see the type, it's shown as the Azure Active Directory. Then what you have to do is whatever the users are part of the group, you have to select one of the user. Let's say for example here LNA is part of that inside Web Insight group. You have to select LNA, his email ID, and there are two ways to for this user to log in. Either you can provide this unique URL which you are selecting, and then the user can log in with this, or the other way I will show you once this demo is over. I will show you onto the Citrix cloud service URL login itself. There is a tab where you can click and user can log in. So basically, I will now pause this, because what I had done is I had already created this section I wanted to show you guys, but the other sections are already there where I have already added a user. So with that user account, maybe I will try to log in into the Citrix Cloud account so that hopefully we'll be able to connect more. So here, if you see, there's an option with sign in with my company credentials. If you recall, on my identity and access management, where I have added integrated with the Azure Active Directory, I had given name as company name as ADM PM. So all I have to do is give that name here, click on it. It'll ask me to log in. Let me just put in the username, give in the password. So the first time a user is added, it takes some time to configure all the settings required for that user access onto the ADM. But thereafter, it would be pretty much faster. So as you see, this is the one which has been assigned access for. If you remember, under the identity and access management, the custom access was only given for this application. So once I select this and I get inside the manage, for this user in my demo environment, I have only given the read-only access, which means this user will only be able to view and access all the data, but will not be able to change or perform any actions around which can perform the edits over the existing configuration of ADM. So that's how pretty much concludes the Azure AD Group support or for the ADM service. So I will quickly launch the poll just to understand how useful this feature would be. I think I don't have the poll for this one. Excuse me. So let's go to the next improvement, which is the improvement around the config job. Uh, So config job is, as we understand, right? If we want to push a configuration across the ADCs, this is one of the features which we use quite regularly from the ADM. We'll be talking on more on the basics and walkthrough in the primer section. Here I'm just touching base one of the features which has been enhanced or improvement which has came into the configuration job. That is, to now we have the support for show configuration, which means rather than just pushing the commands or CLI or configuration onto the ADC, now you can pull the data or stats from the ADC with this show configuration support. So all you have to do is push the right commands which you want to pull the information from the ADC, and it can prepare a report for you post running the configuration job. Let's quickly look into the ADC itself on how it will look like. I'm going to launch my ADM again. It's under infrastructure, configuration job. Within that, once you create a job, under the various configuration source, there is batch configuration option, under which now you have the show configuration option. The demo I will be covering demo in detail on how to pull that report when I talk about the primer. Just wanted to show you that this option is here. We will again talk about and I will show you sample how to fetch that. So let's go to the config job primer. So as we know, right, a configuration job is one of the very sort out feature from the ADM, be it on-prem or even on the ADM service. Why? Because you can perform a lot of config executions. These are few of the use cases which I wanted to highlight, which helps the administrator or an operator to perform loads of tasks around the ADCs. First, you can perform the config execution with very ease on several devices as a single task. Like you don't have to repeat the jobs. Like in a normal fashion, what you have to do, you have to log into the appliance, perform the task, and then go out and then log into the another and do it. Here, with this config job, it can perform those jobs. With a single config job, you can perform tasks on multiple, and of course, you can even decide upon whether you want to do it one by one or you want to do on perform those jobs on all the devices in parallel. And the other thing which helps here is in case this job is required to be run at or to be performed at a certain period or certain time in of the day or a week, you can always schedule this config execution as per your requirement. So it gives a very easy replication. And other use case which I wanted to highlight is you have an option to very easily replicate the configuration from one device to another, which means if you have a configuration running be it a running conf or a saved conf, and if you want to move it entirely together from one instance to another, you can do that. You can also get the configuration changes. Let's say you performed a configuration change on one device today. Now you log into and you want those configuration changes which are done onto that ADC to be moved to a new ADC without you being aware of copying those CLI command and doing it. There is an option onto the config job where you just select the today's date, and it will fetch all the configuration or segregate all the configuration being ran today onto that device, and you can just put it into the template, convert it into variables if you want to put it onto the multiple device, or change the IPs based upon your requirement before pushing it to the new ADC or the destination ADC. Another one of the important feature is, let's say if you're not aware of the CLI commands, and sometimes it becomes very hassle to understand what is the sequence of a command if you want to configure, let's say for example, content switch to virtual server to the backend services with a lot of responder rewrite policies, certificate being bound. Sometimes the sequence is very difficult to maintain and CLI commands are tedious to remember. So what you can do, one of the another important or very good feature within the config job is record config, wherein all you have to do is enable the record config for one ADC. It will and you go and do the changes via the GUI, and it will record equivalent CLI commands for you, which you can use it as a template and push it to the destination ADCs or group of ADCs. Then you have to change it into variables and push it across. So with this, let's talk about one of the use cases around which I would be concentrating to cover around is the usage of variables, because that is one of the most common used, and still people tend to get confused on how to properly use those. So we'll talk about the usage of variables, which is part of the first use case. And of course, I will talk about the show command enhancement which has came up. So let's quickly go to the demo. So as I was talking about this job, here, if you see, I have created a job. I clicked on create job and I created a show config. So I will just click on edit just to showcase you what I have been doing into this. Here, I have given two of the pre-added. So if you want, you can always clear content and you can add whatever content you are required to create. Or if you already have a ready-made template which you want to use in, you can select that. So like here, if you see, I had created couple of templates, one of them being the show config demo. So I just select that here, drag and drop, or you can just click on this plus sign and it will get added here. So three things I'm trying to pull: show NS info, show node, and show NS date in this example. What I will do, I will go to next. I will select the instance. Here you can select, I have just selected one instance pair. You can select the number of instances from which you want to pull in, and you can add those. Let's say I've selected one of the instance. I go, and of course, the other option which I want to talk about is execute on primary node or execute on secondary node. So mostly all your CLI commands and whatever are allowed to be synced between primary and secondary, you can always, so this is not in, I'm not talking in terms of just the fetching show command, but in terms of pushing a CL commands. Mostly most of the things are which are configurable onto the primary and get syncs through the HA to the secondary. This check might not be required, but there are certain things which doesn't get synced between primary and secondary, and you want to configure those. Maybe most appropriate use case would be pushing some shell based commands onto the secondary node, which are not syncable between primary and secondary, and are has to be done on both the devices separately. So that situation, this is useful. Or else most of the time, like the commands I'm trying to do, I can just execute it on the primary node and fetch it here. Or if I want to do any CLI based configuration, only this option will suffice. So we'll go to the next. As I'm just doing a pull of the configuration, I don't have to define anything here. I'll go to next. It will show me that on this instance I'm going to run these commands. I just go to execute. I have option ignore error and continue because it's not doing any changes, it's just pulling out the information. This also I can either do it now or schedule it for later. If let's say I want this to be generated weekly for me or every day and keep it as a record for analysis for me, or keeping a tab on or what all changes are being done, then I can schedule it. So let's say I do it now, and then I have the option whether if there are multiple devices being selected, then I have an option whether I want to do this in parallel or in sequence. Here, since it is only one device in this demo, I can be okay with execute in sequence. Then if I want to email it, I can set the email alias and it will send a mail, or I can get a notification or Slack as well with the details of execution. So let's quickly run this and see how the output shows. So if you see here, now it is in progress. By the time it is run, let's go ahead and show you the option on how to start using the variables to create some of the simple configurations onto the ADC, or push the configurations onto the ADC. Okay, it has already completed. Wonderful. So here, if you see, I have a download option. If I want to immediately want to look into it, I can download it and view it. So if you see here, it is giving me the output here, the commands which I have run in. So this is pretty much for the show command. Now let's go to the usage of variable and how you can use an existing configuration, or how you can use a new configuration and you can define variable if you have a requirement of pushing same configuration to multiple appliances. So before I do that, I do wanted to talk about these things which I already highlighted, right? Record and play, as I talked about while talking about the use cases onto the slide. So this is the section where you can select the source ADC and you can record. As soon as the UI, it will open up a UI where you can perform the task. It could be, let's say, a dev environment or a test ADC where you want to just play around with the UI. It will convert those CLI commands for you, and then you can use that CLI command, which you can add it here in the template. If it is single ADC, you can just change the IPs and the name based upon your need and push it. If if you have a requirement where you want to push it to multiple, then of course you have to convert into variables, which we'll talk about. Next, as I told about this instance use configuration source, right, where you can either put an entire running configuration, saved configuration, or configuration by time duration, which is very useful feature here. Where if I select today and if I select an instance, from that instance, it will just fetch all the configurations and it will show up here. And again, the rest of the process remains same, whether you want to push it as it is, change the IPs, change the name, or you want to convert it into variable for pushing it onto multiple devices. So with this, as we know that we have talked about this variable almost every time when we have talked about all the type of configuration sources. A couple of them are self-explanatory, like inbuilt template, where ADM itself provided a couple of inbuilt templates to use across, or you can have your own custom templates, or you can have a file in a JSON or a text or a conf format, and you have the list of CLI commands which you want to upload and run. So you have a number of possibilities to execute a configuration job. Last one is also very important. Let's say you have a configuration, sorry, the CV advisory which has been released recently, and there are certain mitigation steps. Rather than, if you don't plan to upgrade it immediately, and there are certain steps, let's say it could be as simple as creating some pat set rules, or creating some responder policies to mitigate around that CV, then those CV with all those command will be also available here. All you have to do is drag and drop or click on the plus sign and feed in the variable, because of course if there are multiple devices affected by the CV, you want to fill in the details individually for different ADCs, and based on that you can push it. Okay. So now, as I said, right, you can create your own configuration template. So if you see here, these are already showing up here. From where it is coming? It is coming because under the configuration job, there is a configuration template tab where you can create your own templates, and then you can call it on need basis. For example, I have created one of the template here, which is called as config demo. Here I am doing a very simple task. I am on an individual one of the ADC. I am trying to give a host name, trying to keep the heartbeat off for the loopback interface, and just trying to add one LB, which is type of HTTP with the IP, and port being 80, and couple of other parameters around that LB. I'm trying to play around is, I'm trying to keep the persistence as none and timeout as 360. So of course there are so many parameters you can play around and you can convert into variables, but we'll just concentrate in the interest of time into these only. So let's go back and go into configuration jobs, create job, config push demo. I will select, I will click plus sign here. It will add in here. Now, let's say I have three, four different devices on which I want to do the uh, push of these three configurations. All I have to do is select this, convert into variable. Then I have an option to click to edit. I can give name as host name, device host name. You can give a display name to differentiate it, or else you can just keep the same. Then since it is a text field, device name, you can give this. If it is alphanumeric, you can give numeric. So I'm just keeping it a text field, and I will say done. Now under the interface, if I want to play around with heartbeat or anything else on and off, all I can do is convert into variable, and then click on edit, status, status. Text field will again, because it could be only two fields, right, on or off. So we can give like this. Here I can again change the variable name. Okay. This is LB reserver name. So this can again be a text field. Say done. Okay. So I think I have to just get rid of spaces as it doesn't support. The good thing is that it shows you if you are not performing as per the required values there. Now I can also change the type of protocol I want to use. I can change it to protocol. and then this could be also a text field. The other last field, same way you can change all the fields which you want. So the last field I would want to play around is the IP address. Okay, IP address. Okay, again I have to make sure that there is no space. It should be an IP address field type. There is, and let's say one last field I want to do is the port number. And this could be numeric. Done. Now once I go to next, I have to select the instance. Let's say I select one of the instance here, then go to, of course I'm going to execute it on the primary. Then either I can fill in the variables here, or I can download the input file, and there I can edit that CSV file, and then I can re-upload it back. So let's say I downloaded this file here. It will open that CSV file. Apologies for exceeding by the minutes due to the hiccups caused during the Azure. So we'll be finished in a couple of minutes. So here, as you see in this file, I have got the option to fill the details for this. So if I would have selected multiple ADCs, you would have seen here multiple ADCs entries here under the instances. All I have to give name as, let's say, VPX1 status. Of course we know, right, for which is coming. HA monitor, this is very important to remember for which it is. So let's say I say off. LB VIP name I can give app1. Protocol I can give SSL or HTTP. This variable has to be correctly filled in, or else your CLI commands will fail. And then port number, let's say, is 80. Now all I have to do is save it, close it, choose that file which I have just now edited. See, it says, the variable has been uploaded success. Anything if it has been filled wrong, or you have not filled as per the required parameter, the type of input field you have selected, it will throw out the error. Now let's go to next. You see, if I would have multiple instances, selecting one by one instances, it would have shown what are the various parameter changes has been done. Let's say if it had been another instance, I would have given the field name for host value as VPX2. By dropping down, I could have seen those differences coming up. Now I have this. Next is again the last part of the job is to execute it. Here you have, of course, three options. Either you want to ignore the error and continue with these steps in case there is any of the command which is failing in the list of commands, or and execute continue with the other commands. Or the other option is, as soon as one of the command fails in the list in the sequential order when it is executing those, it has to stop there itself and don't execute, but the commands which has been executed will still lie onto that ADC. Or other option is, in case error is there, command failure is there, roll back the entire, even the successful command as well. And other things I have already spoken when I was talking about show command is whether you want to do it now or later, and if you want to do it in parallel on multiple device or in sequential order followed by the email or Slack. Yeah, with this email I just wanted to show you, I have received that, I would have received that email wherein it will show me the output. If you see here, this is the summary. I would have summary email I would have got. So let it open. So this pretty much concludes the demo for the configuration job. Maybe in future we'll try to touch base on the record and other type of ways to use it. However, details for this are also available over the Citrix documentation. If you want to try out those, to try it out. So yeah, as I was showing, so this is the complete job information, how it was run, when it was executed, complete report is down at the form. So I'll go back to our session. With this, I conclude my session. We'll quickly launch out the poll to understand how you have been benefiting with this primer sections which we have been taking out every month onto the webinars. Okay, thank you everyone. See you everyone next week. Till then, have a good month and a good day. Bye bye.